ठीक है. सो अगेन अगर लिखना है तो वहां पर लिख लो रेफर नोट्स टू टॉक अबाउट दिस. So there was this criticism. Then next criticism आता है, and the next criticism is emphasis on multiple nuclei. Emphasis on multiple nuclei. So multiple nuclei theory was given by C.D. Harris and Edward Ullman. C.D. Harris and Edward Ullman. Actually, they gave this theory in 1945. In 1945. So you can see how they find that the city is actually developing. They find that the modern cities which were developing, they were not single nuclei, but they were multiple nuclei. So you can see here, अब इसमें देखें multiple nuclei में, तो there is this zone 1, which is thus again CBD. Then there is zone 2, which is wholesale light मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. अगर जोन 2 यहां पर है तो जोन 5 कहां पर होना चाहिए? उससे बहुत दूर. सो कैन यू सी हियर इट इज द जोन 5 विच इज द हाई क्लास रेसिडेंशियल एरियाज. जोन 3 बहुत क्लियरली उसको सराउंड करेगा, फंक्शनल एरियाज को. सो जोन 3 इज, कैन यू सी, सराउंडेड ऑन द आउटस्कर्ट्स ऑफ 1 and 2. सो दैट इज जोन 3 विच इज द लो क्लास रेसिडेंशियल. मीडियम क्लास रेसिडेंशियल इन दोनों के बीच में मिलेगा, 3 और 4 के. ठीक है, 3 और 5 के, सॉरी. सो दैट इज 4 इज मीडियम क्लास रेसिडेंशियल. अभी आसानी से याद हो सकता है. ठीक है. नाउ देयर आर अदर्स ऑल्सो. वन इज हैवी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. हैवी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग किसके पास होगा? 5 के पास होगा या 3 के पास? 3 के पास होना चाहिए. So here you can see heavy manufacturing is there. Then there is outlying business district. Business district में क्या मिलता था? रिटेल, होलसेल. किसके पास ज्यादा पैसे हैं खरीदने के लिए? रिटेल, होलसेल. 4 और 5, मिडिल और रिच. So can you see here by locating itself here, it is serving whom? Both 4 and 5. दोनों को सर्व कर रहा है. 5 के पास तो पैसा है, they are expending. ये वाले लोग ड्रीम करते हैं ऐसा बनने के लिए. सो मजबूरी में पैसा हो ना हो, दे हैव टू स्पेंड. ठीक है. सो देयर इज लॉट्स ऑफ डिमांड फ्रॉम हियर एज वेल. देन देयर इज अ रेसिडेंशियल सबर्ब. दिस इज, कैन यू सी, अब रेसिडेंशियल सबर्ब दूर है. कैन यू सी वर्किंग प्लेसेस कौन सी है? दिस वन. रेजिडेंशियल सबर्ब यहां पर बन रहा है. कौन लोग रहते होंगे इसमें? कैन आई से रिच पीपल? हाउ दीज रेजिडेंशियल सबर्ब्स आर फॉर्म्ड? कैन आई से द रियल एस्टेट. याद है हमने मार्क्स की थ्योरी बात की थी. वी टॉक्ड अबाउट हाउ रियल एस्टेट वाज प्लेइंग अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल. दे वुड बाय चीप लैंड. उनको पता चल जाएगा कहीं पर चीप लैंड है. व्हाट दे वुड डू? दे वुड बाय दैट चीप लैंड. और दे वुड नो कि इधर से रोड जाने वाली है, न्यू रोड इज बीइंग कंस्ट्रक्टेड और मेट्रो रेल इज बीइंग कंस्ट्रक्टेड. इवन बिफोर अदर पीपल नो, दे वुड नो, बिकॉज दे कोल्यूड विद द पॉलिटिशियंस. पॉलिटिशियंस का ही पैसा एक्चुअली लगा होता है रियल एस्टेट में. सो व्हाट दे वुड डू? दे वुड बिफोर हैंड बाय दैट चीप लैंड. दे वुड ऑल्सो डेवलप टाउनशिप्स. अब उन टाउनशिप्स में वेरी गुड फ्लैट्स आर बीइंग मेड. हु विल गो देयर? It is the rich and medium classes who would be staying there. These are the people who can afford to go to either 7 or like this. Then there is an industrial suburb. Again, industrial suburb इससे दूर होगा. So it would be more near to where this 6 or 9. ठीक है ना? So this is what is found in the multiple nuclei theory. अब देखो प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि what the multiple nuclei theory says that the Burgess model is visualizing expansion of a city in a uniform agricultural landscape. ठीक है, so एक city है and this city is surrounded by uniformly, there is all this land is farmland जिसमें वो city expand हो रहा है. ठीक है, but if I look into this reality, can I say it is not always necessary that it would all be farmlands? There would be small towns. Some centers would be located. होगा? And will these centers provide potential for future nucleus growth? Have they got the potential to develop into competing nuclei? ठीक है? So the growth of the city is not taking place in some kind of homogeneous uniform farmland. In this, it would be interspersed by presence of several small towns. So as the city expands, these towns would be incorporated and would become part of the city. These would provide the potential centers to become multiple nuclei. Another very important thing is, as the city develops, there is emergence of services as the dominant sector of the economy. Services are essentially what? They are more mobile than the other forms of economic activities. ठीक है, just for example, if you talk about IT services, उसको क्या मतलब है? Why it needs to be located near the customer? Delhi में देखो, where the majority of IT services are located, service providers. It is Noida. Noida, Greater Noida is the place where majority of the IT service providers you will be finding. So they need not be located near to the center. They would save their cost by being located at such places. ठीक है? So that is another factor which is leading to what? Which is leading to emergence of such multiple nuclei. So लिख लेते हैं इसको. So लिखो. According to C.D. Harris and E.L. Ullman, C.D. Harris and E.L. Ullman, the concentric zone theory visualizes horizontal sprawl of the city in the surrounding agricultural landscape, which is made up of uniform farmland. With no other urban spaces to be present. Full stop. However, it is frequent to find presence of inner and outer ring towns. Inner and outer ring towns in this rural landscape. Full stop. As the city expands, these towns are incorporated and become integral part of the city. Full stop. These towns are the sites which provide are the sites which provide potential for development of future nuclei. Stop. Thus, with time, the city would become multiple nuclei oriented. Multiple nuclei oriented. And the original nuclei would gradually lose its significance or lower its significance. Its significance would be lowered gradually. ठीक है? So this is the emphasis on multiple nuclei model. ठीक है? अब इसमें एक और ऐड कर देते हैं. And if we talk about this multiple nuclei model के बाद development of post industrial metropolises, और इसको मैं एक शब्द में भी बोल सकता हूं, exopolises. Development of post-industrial metropolises, or simply, in simple words, exopolises. ठीक है? So what has happened? Very importantly, the concentric zone model was based upon principle of balance between centripetal and centrifugal forces. What has happened? Particularly after the era of globalization, after 1970s, cities have seen a growth pattern where centrifugal forces are much powerful than the centripetal forces. As a result of which, the growth of the city, both in terms of economic functions as well as in terms of residential spaces, has grown where? It has grown on the outskirts, on the fringes of the city. So cities have become what? Now more outward bound cities. Such type of cities are referred to as the post-industrial metropolises or exopolises. ठीक है? सो लिख लेते हैं इसको. The post-globalization world has seen newer developments of city which contradicts the concentric zone model. Full stop. Burgi's model was based upon principles of balance between the centripetal and centrifugal forces. Full stop. However, with emergence of the phenomena of deindustrialization along with delocalization, हमने देखा deindustrialization is growth of service sector, याद है? Deindustrialization and delocalization of industries. The growth of the city has been dominated, the growth of the cities have been dominated by centrifugal forces. full stop. Thus majority of expansion has occurred comma both in terms of functional and residential comma has occurred हमने लिख लिया ना, has occurred both in terms of functional and residential in comma के बाद in the fringes or at the fringes of the cities, full stop. Such cities have become extensively large and have presence of several characteristic features which are not explained in the concentric zone theory. For example, presence of edge cities, private gated communities, out of town theme parks, etc. ठीक है. So many of these things were not explained by the concentric zone model. So अगर इसको देखें, so you see this was a small city before. So in this is mainly the Burgi city. Central business district is there. There is factory housing which is located on the outskirts. There is working class community, middle class, and surrounding on the middle class there is also the rich classes which are located. Okay. Now as the city is growing, can you see it becomes multiple nuclei? So there is new urban nuclei which is growing. There is decentralizing industry which is taking place, new mini CBD which has developed. So it is becoming now multiple nuclei. Further expansion of the cities has led to development of such exopolises. Can you see exopolises? Again, CBD is there, but it has lost its regional significance, the local significance which was there. Although it is becoming now global command center. याद है वर्ल्ड सिटी की बात की थी हमने? So it is becoming a more global command center. But it is not a major employment giver. क्योंकि अब यहाँ पर manufacturing and all those activities are not too much taking place. So where many of the things have shifted on the, can you see so many developments have occurred where? These developments have not occurred in the inner part of the city. They have occurred where? On the edges of the city, periphery of the city. Okay? So can you see, like for example, high-tech new industrial space would be growing. High-tech spaces would be growing. Okay? Like very good example of this is Silicon Valley, which is essentially what? Which is located on the edge of Los Angeles. So high-tech new industrial spaces would be growing. Others like for example Edge City. Edge City, बाद में देखते हैं. Edge City is a city where the number of jobs are more than the number of beds. That means it is mainly what? It is a functional area where lots of offices would be concentrated. ठीक है? So that is the case. अब यहाँ पर लोग काम करने वाले हैं तो कुछ आसपास रेजिडेंशियल स्पेसेस भी होंगी. So there would be formation of private gated communities. अब यहाँ पर very clearly it is fully owned and maintained by private people. They would also be like taxing the people who are living here. Like for example, I am living in the DLF and we are paying around 7,000 rupees, at least 7,000 rupees per month of maintenance cost. वो actually basically वो क्या है? It is a kind of tax that they are taking for maintaining law and order, maintaining the security, keeping the things clean. That means here private has replaced what? The government. ठीक है, ये सारा काम कौन करता है? सिक्योरिटी का काम गवर्नमेंट का है. ठीक है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मेंटेनेंस, क्लीनिंग एटसेट्रा, इट इज द वर्क ऑफ गवर्नमेंट. हियर इट इज द प्राइवेट विच इज डूइंग. ठीक है, सिमिलरली यू कैन सी लार्ज शॉपिंग सेंटर्स खुल गए. सो मेनी पीपल, मिडिल इनकम क्लास का ग्रोथ बहुत फास्ट हुआ है. सो अगेन दे वांट टू स्पेंड देयर मनी. ठीक है, सो अगेन दैट इज द थिंग. ऑल्सो देयर वुड बी सम इंडस्ट्रियल सबर्ब्स which have grown because there would be many type of industries which require places which still require development. Other things like out of theme town, theme park, fantasy land. So यहाँ पर जो रहने वाले जो लोग हैं, they are like high tech people who are working in all these places. Now emergence of white collar workers because it is based on service industry. ठीक है, अब उनको बता दिया गया कि भाई आप मैनेजर हो, सब तरह के मैनेजर हैं. And they are not being told कि actually you are a labor. ठीक है, so again what happens as a result of they have their own fantasies. If you ask a person who is working in an IT company, he will tell you कि मेरी ये fantasy, I want to go on trekking, I want to do this, I want to do that. But ना तो पैसा है, ना ही time. ठीक है. So what has been done, looking into this type of demand, such type of things have been brought to them. ठीक है, like अभी गुड़गांव एरियाज एक्सेट्रा में चले जाओ, you'll be finding rope climbing and all those, सभी तरह का ये सब activities are present. ठीक है, so such type of out of theme park, fantasy land, such type of situations would be present. Disneyland, for example, is very famous aspect. So this type of development is seen. Very exemplary city in this context was Los Angeles. ठीक है, so एक लाइन और लिख लो. An exemplary city in this context was Los Angeles, on the basis of which a new urban morphology theory has developed, referred to as the Berkeley School. अभी हमने बात किया था Berkeley School, referred to as the Berkeley School. ठीक है, so that is post modern urbanization. यही जो characteristics मैं बता रहा था, post modern urbanization की characteristics. So you will be finding अभी it is, although this post modern urbanization is more of a western phenomena, but now because westernization is prevalent everywhere, so it is now even seen in the developing countries as well, particularly the large metropolises. So और भी characteristics होते हैं इस तरह की cities में. There is rich and poor people divide. It has grown. Rich people have become more rich, but majority still remain what? Poor. When there is minority who is rich, can I say he would be very much afraid of the poor people with respect to his security and other things? Because poor people are also frustrated with life. Now again, this means that he has to have those security concerns. You see, आज के टाइम में लगभग सभी जगह पर gated communities हो गई हैं. ठीक है, so if you go यहीं पीछे राजेंद्र नगर में, I was coming one day, so पता लगा कि इधर भी रास्ता बंद है, उधर भी रास्ता बंद है. तो वो गंगाराम के पीछे से वो जो जाता है अग्रवाल से होता हुआ, वहाँ से लेकर के there is only one way which is open because all other areas are closed. So again, ये gated communities का phenomena क्या है? It is a fear. psychological fear among the residents that they would be hurt by some of the very poor criminals and other type of people which are there. ठीक है, और भी चीजें दिखाई पड़ती हैं, लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू सी द, देखा होगा अक्सर, यू गो ऑन रोड एंड ट्रैफिक कहीं कहीं पर रुक रुक सा दिखाई पड़ता है, जाम सा लगता है, आगे जाकर के पता लगता है कि वहां पर बैरिकेडिंग कर रखी है, पुलिस वाला कुछ नहीं है, उधर बैठ करके बीड़ी फूक रहा है, ठीक है, उसको कोई मतलब नहीं है, बट दैट बैरिकेडिंग हैज बीन डन. व्हाई इट हैज बीन डन? बिकॉज यू हैव टू शो टू द पीपल दैट यू आर बीइंग सर्वेड. ठीक है, यू शुड बी अफ्रेड, यू शुड नॉट डू एनीथिंग wrong, you should not even think about anything, doing anything wrong. You can see the emergence of the CCTV cameras. ठीक है, it is another evolution of such type of phenomena. In such type of cities, the dominance is of the rich class, no doubt. The planning is done according to that rich class people, and planning is done in such a manner where you'll try to show that all people belong to the city. Belongingness सभी के पास रहे, feeling of belongingness, but still वो class separation रहे, बना रहे. Like for example, you'll find very frequently, तुम parks में जाओ, many of these parks you will be finding that benches बना रखी हैं बैठने के लिए, but वो benches कहाँ पे बना रखे हैं? जहाँ पेड़ नहीं है. अब कोई धूप में जाकर के उस बेंच पर कैसे बैठ सकता है? It is purposefully done because they know poor people will do what? They would just spend their time, if there is shade, they would sleep there during the daytime. ठीक है? So many of the architectures which are there, they are designed in such a manner that you make people feel कि भाई ये तुम्हारे लिए है, but still exclude them. ठीक है? So this type of city emergence, बाद में देखेंगे, it is referred to as the post-modern cities. It is a new form of urban development which has taken place. ठीक है? So that is one. Then another criticism, introduction of class size variable. Class size variable. अब देखो, what actually happens, a city is emerging from a point, then it becomes a little bigger, then it becomes a little more bigger, and little more bigger, like this. This is what? This is the large city which has industrial city which is there. So it is the large industrial city. Burgess called this city as the great industrial city. The great industrial city. So what was actually found, that Burgess model was more applicable with respect to what? The great industrial city. It was able to explain the morphology of the great industrial city. But can I say that cities कुछ ऐसी भी होंगी, अभी भी होंगी, some of them would be like this. So it is unable to explain the morphology of various size classes of the cities. ठीक है? And finding this as a problem, Griffith Taylor provided a classification of cities on the basis of size, evolution and size, and also simultaneously provided the related morphology. ठीक है? So इसको एक दो लाइन लिखवाता हूँ, लिखो. In presenting his model, Burgess used terms like great cities. This was one term which was used, or our largest cities. Our largest cities. Full stop. This makes it clear This makes it clear that his model is applicable mostly to large industrial cities similar to that of Chicago. Similar to that of Chicago. Full stop. Thus, his model is not useful to predict the evolution and related morphology of a city from a primitive cell to a large industrial city. Sensing this weakness, Griffith Taylor in 1949 provided a classification on the basis of evolution and size of towns. Also highlighting their related morphology. Related morphology. तो एक एक करके बात करते हैं. सबसे पहले infantile towns. So these are the earliest nuclei which have started to develop as a city. Thus they are smaller in size. Full stop. They are characterized by haphazard distribution of shops and houses. With distinctively no factories. No factories. ठीक है. Thus, there is no differentiation of land use found in them. Then दूसरा आता है juvenile towns. So लिखो. There is emergence of centripetal forces which lead to differentiation of zones. Full stop. Thus, shops get concentrated towards the center. Leading to emergence of the CBD. Full stop. There is still distinctive absence of factories. Still distinctive absence of factories. ठीक है. सो देखो वो क्या रहा था, दिस वॉज द सिटी. अब यहां पर रिच, मीडियम, ऑल आर डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड एंड दिस रेड वन इज द शॉप्स, रैंडमली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड. फिर क्या हुआ, सिटी ग्रो करने लगी. नाउ फंक्शनैलिटी, शॉप्स आर गेटिंग कंसंट्रेटेड वेयर, सेंटर, एंड residences are still rich, medium and poor. All are randomly distributed now. There is no clear cut zonation. ठीक है. और अभी rich people are preferring to live here. Slowly पहले rich people यहीं center में थे, but now they have moved a bit. They have left out the center because उनको rent वहाँ पर ज़्यादा मिल रहा है. ठीक है. So what is happening? Still they don't have problem in living near the center. But third case में adolescent towns में there would be emergence of factories. ठीक है. So when the factories begin to emerge, what will happen? Can I say next stage में differentiation residential में भी होना शुरू हो जाएगा. ठीक है. So adolescent में लिखो, adolescent towns. There is emergence of scattered factories which begin to be placed on the outskirts of the central CBD. Central CBD. Full stop. In this stage, the factories continue to grow, but still there is no differentiation of residential spaces. So अब यहाँ पर क्या हुआ? These factories have grown now, but अभी भी what we find, the residential spaces are not very clearly segregated. So there is lack of differentiation. Still it is more mixed. So city has grown, but still it is different. Then comes the early mature town. And early mature town में अब क्या होने लगा? Early mature town we will be finding that this rich people will now be fed up with the factories, the noise, the pollution, ठीक है, the congestion, and thus they would think कि ज़्यादा better क्या है? We move towards the outskirts. ठीक है. So early mature town में what will happen? Now there is a clear cut defined CBD which is there, which is surrounded by a distinctive factory zone, and there is a housing. Still there is this location of working class interspersed with some the middle classes. But what has happened very importantly with the rich class? They have moved where? On the outskirts. Now they are living on the outskirts. They own vehicles. They are rich people. They can easily commute every day towards the center. दे आर लिविंग अ मोर पीसफुल लाइफ. एज वी सॉ, बर्गीज क्या कहता है, दिस एरिया इज 1 hour डिस्टेंस, ट्रेवल टाइम डिस्टेंस फ्रॉम द सेंटर वेयर दे आर लिविंग. So this is the case of the early mature town. So look, this stage sees clear segregation of first class houses. This stage sees clear segregation of first class houses. First class houses as they as the rich population migrates towards the periphery. Being fed up with the problems of living in near the factory zone. Being fed up with the problems of living near the factory zone. ठीक है. एंड फाइनली द मैच्योर टाउन्स में क्या होगा, अब मिडिल क्लास भी उधर से माइग्रेट करके आउटवर्ड्स आ जाएगा. इन बिटवीन की जो स्पेसेस हैं दे वुड बी फिल्ड बाय व्हाट, द मिडिल क्लास. ठीक है. सो दस व्हाट विल हैपन, morphology which was similar to the Burgese model would emerge. So look, these are the large industrial cities. These are the large industrial cities which would display the characteristic morphology. Characteristic morphology as displayed in the Burgese model. As displayed in the Burgese model. ठीक है. So Griffith Taylor find that this is the manner in which the cities are developing. ठीक है. इसका एक नेक्स्ट स्टेज जो अभी हमने किया, इसका नेक्स्ट स्टेज क्या है, मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियाई. उसमें भी स्टेजेस हमने देखी है. मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियाई, उसके बाद पोस्ट इंडस्ट्रियल मेट्रोपोलिस, एक्सोपोलिस जिसको हमने बोला. ठीक है. सो दिस इज द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द cities which is taking place. So this is another constructive criticism of the Burgese model. ये सभी Burgese के principle को मान रहे हैं, but what they are saying, it is incomplete. Thus they are trying to complete the Burgese model. ठीक है. एक last criticism, the Marxist and structural criticism. The Marxist and structural criticism. So, what is the basic idea which has been put by the Marxists and the structuralist criticism, structuralist geographers? They argue that the Burgese model is only incompletely able to describe the or explain the processes which are responsible for the city growth. They just focus upon some of the economic factors to neglect of several politico-economic factors. ठीक है. Social factors mostly they are emphasizing, but they neglect several politico-economic factors which are also playing very dominant role in the sprawl of the city. देखा है हमने इसको, याद है हमने मार्क्सिज्म में बात किया था, that capital, there is surplus capital with the capitalists. One part they invest in productive investment, but rest of the capital, if it lies idle, what will happen to it? It would, value would depreciate. So they don't want this, they want to invest this capital also. So what they are doing, they are investing it in the real estate. ठीक है. So you tell me, अभी जो हमने यहाँ पर बात किया, that there is migration of these people leaving behind some enclaves ऑन द आउटस्कर्ट्स। सो वो अपने आप वहां पर मूव आउट कर गए। क्या उन्होंने इंडिविजुअली खरीदा और चले गए? इतनी हिम्मत थी? एक्चुअली इट वॉज रियल एस्टेट विच बॉट, डेवलप्ड small townships and allowed, provided the opportunity for these rich people to migrate. ठीक है ना? So again, many of the processes have not been detailed or even purposely left out in the Burgess model. ठीक है, so लिख लेते हैं. According to Marxist and structuralist thinkers, the Burgess model is incomplete with respect to explanation of various processes which are involved in the urban sprawl. Full stop. It just focuses on some social processes to the neglect of many important politico-economic processes. Full stop. According to Harvey, the various circuits of capital. C. Investment of surplus capital in the real estate. In the various circuits of capital, C. Investment of surplus capital in the real estate. Full stop. The real estate agents buy cheap land on the fringes of the city and develop townships. Full stop. Very frequently such expansion takes the form of leapfrogging. अभी इसको अंडरलाइन कर दो. We'll see later in urban sprawl what is leapfrogging. Leapfrogging मतलब you leave agricultural enclaves in between and you leapfrog. ठीक है. सो अगर सिटी यहां पर है, हमने क्या देखा, कायदे से ग्रोथ यहां पर होना चाहिए था, बट व्हाट हैज हैपेंड, ये लीपफ्रॉग करके कहां पे पहुंच गया, here. And what has happened with this place, it is agricultural, it is still agrarian areas. So this type of development is essentially what? It is leapfrogging development. So very frequently it is leapfrogging development. ठीक है. Full stop. Such developments allow the opportunities for the residents of the city to migrate. ठीक है. So this is basically the criticism of the Burgess model. अब इस criticism में क्या मैं कह सकता हूं, हमने सेक्टोरल मॉडल का भी क्रिटिसिज्म कर दिया, मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियाई मॉडल का भी क्रिटिसिज्म किया, बहुत सारी चीजें. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल अगर मुझे मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियाई के बारे में लिखना है, क्रिटिसाइज करना है, ओके, इट इज द मॉडर्न मॉडल विच एक्सप्लेन्स हाउ द सिटीज आर एमर्जिंग टुडे. ठीक है, It is the model which is trying to explain or which is very similar to the modern concept of post or postmodern cities. ठीक है, बट स्टिल उसमें भी बहुत सारे प्रोसेसेस एक्सप्लेन नहीं किए जा रहे हैं, लाइक ये हार्वे वाला क्रिटिसिज्म. ठीक है ना. सो अगेन इट इज देयर, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन हमने उसको कहां कहां पर लिखा है, यू कैन फोकस अपॉन. अब मुझे सेक्टोरल मॉडल का क्रिटिसिज्म करना है, क्या उसमें मैं इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ बिल्डिंग हाइट, वो भी क्रिटिसिज्म है, उसने भी बात नहीं की थी. ठीक है. सो यू जस्ट हैव गॉट अ पूल ऑफ टॉपिक्स विच यू कैन यूज डिपेंडिंग अपॉन व्हाट इज द क्वेश्चन. आप समझ सकते हो दैट if you for example write it like this is a very probable question which can be asked. Critically analyze the concentric zone theory of Burgess. Very very probable question. Majority of people will just do what? They would write the criticism which is written in the books. 2-3 point होते हैं. That is essentially what they will be writing. But criticism is always what? Many of the later theories which come, they are essentially what? They are constructive criticism. ठीक है. So we can use and write about the constructive criticism. So suppose देखो होता क्या है, suppose एक क्वेश्चन आता है, write a critique of Burgess concentric zone theory और concentric zone model. अब क्वेश्चन बहुत स्पेसिफिकली कह रहा है क्रिटिक लिखना है, क्योंकि पढ़ा है हमने only 2-3 criticism. So what I will do, I will just write the main model 70% and 30% criticism लिखा. I'll just write it like this. But what was the demand of the question? It was to write the critique. ठीक है. Clearly क्यों मेरे पास criticism नहीं था. But if I think logically, many of the things which we have studied later on, how the theory developed, what was the progress in the theory, it was essentially what? It was criticism. ठीक है. So हमने भी यहाँ पर वही किया. We just divided criticism into 2 types, destructive criticism and the constructive criticisms. So sectoral theory क्या था? एक weakness को highlight कर रहा है. One of the weakness was that it did not take into account the significance of transportation arteries. It builds upon that. Multiple nuclei theory, again it highlights one of the weakness. Building height जो हमने बात किया, vertical sprawl की बात नहीं कर रहा है, again weakness. ठीक है. So these are essentially what? These are the criticisms which are there in the theory. एक इसी से रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन है, जस्ट राइट, एग्जामिन द चेंजिंग सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ द CBD. Changing significance of CBD. ठीक है. I'll give you some time, 150 words. Think. क्या लिख सकते हैं? ठीक है। So can you see here? What has happened with the case of population density? अगर यहाँ पर देखो, population density is increasing. In the traditional model, as you went away, there was high population density in zone 2. After that, population density gradually declined. So it was what? Single nuclei model. What has happened with today? There is multiple nuclei. So can you see the significance of population, or what is the characteristic of population density? It is declining away from the main center, but still it is rising at several places where those nuclei are located. ठीक है। अब ये डेंसिटी एक और चीज दिखाता है, अगर मैं इसको रिप्लेस कर दूं, इट इज लैंड रेंट से, can I replace it with land rent? So if I replace it with land rent, can I say this would be the characteristic of land rent which would be found? होगा, ठीक है। Here again, this would be the characteristic of land rent. At several places you are finding that the land rent is increasing, which tells us about what? That there are several other places in the city which are also very important, where people want to be located. So what is happening now? There is a phenomenon which is emerging, which we call it as the postmodern urbanization, in which जो अभी हमने लिखा था, the growth is more outward bound. As a result of which what happens? There is emergence of multiple nuclei. As city expands fast, several townships are incorporated and multiple nuclei emerge. Now, with this emergence, it is very clear that the traditional CBD is slowly losing its significance. But this loss in significance is what? It is more local. Globally, what has happened? It is becoming what? It is becoming more globalized. Global command center. Because still there are number of important, if you talk about the world cities, for example, still there are important MNCs headquarters which would be located, and these are controlling affairs throughout the world. So particularly in the developed world, what is happening? These CBDs, they still are important globally, but locally they are losing their significance. Okay? Now this is outcome of what? This is outcome of number of factors. So पहले एक line लिखते हैं, पहले एक paragraph लिखते हैं, then we'll talk about those factors. So लिखो, with the emergence of postmodern urbanism, with the emergence of postmodern urbanism, the traditional CBD's significance is changing with time. Full stop. On the one hand, its local significance would be waning, while on the other hand, its global significance seems to be waxing. Its global significance seems to be waxing. Full stop, change the paragraph. Locally, as the city expands, comma, it takes the character of multiple nuclei born cities. Nuclei born cities. Full stop. Thus, the traditional CBD is facing increasing competition from the other nuclei which have emerged. Other nuclei which have emerged. Which have emerged. फिर उसके बाद दिस डायग्राम यू विल बी मेकिंग, और यहां पर यू विल मेक लैंड रेंट. ठीक है, ये वाला, ये डिक्लाइन वाला मत बनाना, ये सीधा रेड वाला. सो दिस कैन बी गेज्ड फ्रॉम द लैंड रेंट, the land rent curves of the city land. City land. ठीक है, सो इसको कैसे बनाना है? You'll just make, इस तरह से पेज को दो पार्ट में डिवाइड करो, एंड here you write the earlier situation, contemporary situation. So this is the earlier situation, and this one is what? The contemporary situation. The earlier situation and the contemporary situation. So इसमें एक इसको इस तरह से करना. You don't need to draw this one, हम केवल यहां से ड्रॉ करेंगे this one. ठीक है, आगे लिखते हैं. Such a declining status of the CBD. Such a declining status of the CBD is a result of the following factors. is a result of the following factors. सो अगर इन फैक्टर्स की बात करें, सबसे पहले इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर्स. सो इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर्स में एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर है, दिस इज द वैक्सिंग एंड वेनिंग ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी प्राइसेस और लैंड रेंट. और द लैंड रेंट. ठीक है. सो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग विद द लैंड रेंट which is present or the property prices of the city? They wax and wane. Particularly they are found to be quite high in the traditional CBD. ठीक है. सो लिखो, with the fluctuations of the economy, there is waxing and waning of the property prices in the city. Property prices in the city. Full stop. In general, they are found to be higher in the traditional CBD. Higher in the traditional CBD. Full stop. Thus, cheaper and more affordable locations are sought by the functional units of the CBD. Are sought by the functional units of the CBD, comma, even if they are away from the traditional CBD. Deindustrialization and delocalization phenomena. So look, the CBDs of the large cities have been experiencing the phenomena of deindustrialization, that is emergence of the service sector economies. Full stop. Service sector is not bound by any fixed location, but is highly mobile. Thus, multiple nuclei are emerging. Full stop. Such a decentralization is also accompanied, deindustrialization is also accompanied by delocalization of industries. Delocalization of industries. Full stop. It refers to shifting of manufacturing away from the city center towards outskirts and even to new cities. Thus, the CBD's ability to provide employment, CBD's ability to provide employment or large scale employment has significantly declined. Significantly declined. ठीक है? So this is very important factor which is leading to what? The change which is taking place. Then there are other factors also. One very important factor is the administrative. So administrative factors में very importantly that new economic order is guided by the principles of LPG. LPG is liberalization, privatization and globalization. Full stop. In such an era, models based on privatization and public-private partnerships have emerged, whereby private sector is playing dominant role in the expansion of the or sprawl of the city. Dominant role in the sprawl of the city. So stop. The private sector is less guided by socialistic motive and more profit motive. Full stop. Thus, it is leading to random growth of the cities. Full stop. For example, in US, majority of edge cities, अभी देखा था हमने edge cities, majority of edge cities are result of private investment. ठीक है? So administrative factors बहुत important हो गए. Other एक और administrative factor is, देखो, the present era of urban governance is characterized by participatory planning approach, where municipal corporations have been given larger rights as well as resources with respect to planning of the city. Resources with respect to the planning of the cities. Full stop. It is realized today in urban planning. That single nuclei growth is associated with various urban problems. Full stop. Thus, the modern urban growth has been dominated by planned multiple nuclei. ठीक है. सो देखा होगा, इफ़ यू गो इन द न्यू एरियाज लाइक जो द्वारका में, नोएडा में जो नई कॉलोनीज बन रही हैं, हर ये कॉलोनीज में सेक्टर्स होते हैं, सेक्टर्स में डिवाइडेड होते हैं. ईच सेक्टर में क्या एक सेंटर में एक कॉमर्शियल स्पेस होता है. वाई इट इज प्लान्ड? बिकॉज लोगों को रोजमर्रा की चीजों के लिए दूर नहीं जाना पड़े, टू रिड्यूस द टोटल अमाउंट ऑफ वर्क डन. ठीक है. सो मॉडर्न प्लानिंग इज डोमिनेटेड बाय मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियाइज. अगर एक न्यूक्लियाई होगा तो कंजेशन होगा, पोल्यूशन होगा, प्रॉब्लम्स होंगी. मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियाई वुड सॉल्व मेनी प्रॉब्लम्स. सो दैट इज द मॉडर्न principle of planning, administrative or urban planning. So again, it is related with administration. Then other factors, one very important factor is demographic. Demographic factor. So you tell me, demographically, can I say one important component of city population which has become big, significant? It is the middle class. ठीक है. सो लिख लो, the recent world has seen emergence of large middle class in the cities. Full stop. This middle class aspires to behave like the rich class, and thus give rise to demand of various goods and services. Thereby attracting these goods and services towards them. Full stop. This leads to emergence of the modern phenomena like shopping malls, some of which can develop into new nuclei. ठीक है. So this is another factor which is leading to such type of growth of the CBD. Other is very clearly the, ऑलरेडी हमने इसको लिख लिया, स्ट्रक्चरल फैक्टर हमने यहाँ पर लिख लिया था, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव में हमने स्ट्रक्चरल फैक्टर लिख लिया. ठीक है. सो ये सभी, दीज आर द मेन कॉजेज ड्यू टू विच वी आर फाइंडिंग दैट such a situation in the world has, or particularly this is more pronounced where in the developed world countries, but also becoming pronounced in slowly in the developing world. So that is one. Changing significance में अभी हमने एक पार्ट लिख दिया, declining significance. अब दूसरे पार्ट पे आते हैं. Change the paragraph. Despite this declining significance locally, the global significance of the cities has increased as they tend to become global command centers, particularly the CBDs of the world cities. Full stop. Such a change is related to emergence of multinational companies companies, comma, development of information technology, rise of LPG era, comma, emergence of high order services like financial services, etc. Financial services, etc. ठीक है. So global command center they are becoming, and again हमने उसको world cities में देखा था. So this is basically what you will be essentially writing अगर ये question आता है तो. So that is how we find that these cities are interrelated to each other. ठीक है. ब्रेक नहीं दे रहा हूँ. ठीक है, हाफ एन आवर इसको खत्म करके फिर छुट्टी कर देंगे. सो दिस इज बेसिकली द केस ऑफ, देख सकते हो और भी जो मैंने दिए थे वो सब दिए हुए हैं इसमें. लाइक रिफोर्ड का एक मॉडल की बात की थी हमने, एक्सप्लोडेड सिटी मॉडल रिफोर्ड बात करता है, विच इज द नेक्स्ट स्टेज ऑफ द मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियर. सो इसमें देख सकते हो अगर एक्सोपॉलिसिस को एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए कोई थ्योरी चाहिए तो इट इज विच थ्योरी? रिफोर्ड की थ्योरी. सो यू कैन सी इसमें क्या हो रहा है, देयर इज सिटी कोर, कुछ जगहों पे कॉन्टिन्यूस स्प्रॉल हो रहा है, कुछ जगहों पे रिबन डेवलपमेंट स्प्रॉल हो रहा है, बट सम प्लेसेस इट इज लीप फ्रॉग और चेकरबोर्ड स्प्रॉल. सो मेनी चेकरबोर्ड स्प्रॉल्स हैव टेकन प्लेस. ठीक है. सो नाउ द ग्रोथ हैज शिफ्टेड वेयर ऑन द आउटस्कर्ट्स ऑफ द सिटी. सो दिस इज द एक्सप्लोडेड सिटी मॉडल ऑफ रिफोर्ड. ठीक है. अब इसमें एक और दिया है मैंने, एक्सप्लॉइटेटिव मॉडल ऑफ विलियम बंजी. सो अगर मुझे जो मार्क्सिस्ट क्रिटिसिज्म लिखना था उसको और सपोज एक्सपैंड करना है तो आई कैन टॉक अबाउट दिस बंजीज मॉडल. सो बंजी इज फोकसिंग अपॉन, he is saying that the concentric zone theory doesn't takes into account various processes through which the sectors are interrelated. It doesn't focuses on the problems of inequality, the problems of exploitation of poor people by the rich classes. So it doesn't explains many of the processes of the city. ठीक है. So you can see how he describes. He describes that there is a city of death which is located where? More in near to the center. There is city of need and there is city of superfluity. ठीक है. अब देखो सिटी ऑफ डेथ क्या करता है, दो तरह के टैक्सेस पे करता है. किसको? सिटी ऑफ सुपरफ्लुइटी को, रिच पीपल को. सो दो तरह के टैक्सेस हैं, वन इज डेथ टैक्स एंड अदर इज मशीन टैक्स. डेथ टैक्स एंड मशीन टैक्स. ठीक है. यू कैन सी सिटी ऑफ नीड व्हाट इट डज, it is also paying one type of tax to city of superfluity. It is what? It is the machine tax. It is paying the machine tax. So अगर इनकी बात करें तो what it is talking about, how exploitation is leading to the flow of money. So it is paying machine tax to the efficient population in the form of lower wages along with the death tax, as they also have to pay high cost of living. ठीक है. सो देखो सिंपल सी बात है कि इफ यू टॉक अबाउट द प्रोपोर्शन ऑफ वेजेस विच इज गिवन टू द पीपल, अ पर्सन हु इज डूइंग सम लो जॉब, हिज सैलरी वुड बी व्हाट? वेरी लो. ही इज ऑल्सो वर्किंग सेम टाइम बट इज गेटिंग वेरी वेरी लो सैलरी. So it is kind of what? It is kind of machine tax which he is paying. Just because some person owns the machines, he is extracting majority of the profit as a tax. So it is what? It is in a way it is paying, the lower workers are paying machine tax. Same machine tax is also paid by the middle class workers. Middle class workers are also working very hard throughout the day. Their salary in proportion to the low class is better. But when it is compared with the rich class, who takes majority of profit? It is the rich class. Okay? So that means they are also paying a part of the tax as machine tax. अब death tax क्या है? Consider a person who is earning 10,000 rupees. He has to pay rents quite high. He has to pay for education. He has to pay for health, food, so many things. What is left at the end of the day? Zero. So ultimately what is happening? The cost of living has been made higher. So it is what? It is a kind of death tax. Again, it is what? It is a form of exploitation. Many times you will see, many very educated people will say कि तुम कैसे बात कर रहा है, तुम हमारी तरह टैक्स थोड़ी पे करता है. Every person in India pays tax. Proportionately of their income, poor people pay more tax than the rich people. ठीक है? Proportionately if you see. They are paying basically what? Indirect taxes. ठीक है? So a rich person is paying two type of tax, direct and indirect tax. But how much money a rich person spends particularly on basic needs? कितना money spend करता है? Out of his total income, he must be spending something like 10-20%, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा. उससे ज़्यादा spend नहीं करता है. Majority of money either is saving or it is spending in luxury. But a poor person, he spends almost more than 90% of his money in basic needs, which are also equally taxed. ठीक है? So out of his total salary, he is paying what? Proportion of the tax which he actually pays, it is much more than a rich person pays out of the proportion of salary he gets. ठीक है? So it is a misconception that poor people are not paying taxes. They are paying more taxes proportionately of what they are getting. So it is a form of what? It is a form of death tax, which Banji is describing. So he has given a model to explain the various processes of exploitation which are taking place in the city. ठीक है? So again, this is another model which एक बार बस देख लेना, can be useful some places. अब morphology of Indian cities की बात करें. So Indian cities, like anywhere, city morphology is always unique. Morphology होती है cities की. So site, original site and the situation, it determines what would be the morphology. Despite the variabilities which would be found, Indian cities display variety of forms of morphologies. ठीक है? Many of which are having several common traits. Like three type of models we'll be discussing. One is the bazaar based model, second is the colonial model or historical model, and third is the planned cities. So तीन models हम discuss करने जा रहे हैं. ठीक है? बाजार based model, the historical model and the planned cities. So बाजार based model में देख सकते हो, ये एक फॉर एग्जाम्पल यहाँ पर ट्रेडिशनल सिचुएशन दिया हुआ है. So this is the main CBD, the zone 1 which is located. Can you see this zone 1? So zone 1 में there is a bazaar based traditional city which was located here. Now what has happened, इसमें अलग अलग सेंटर्स हैं, लाइक उसमें कुछ पॉकेट्स हो सकते हैं. होल सेल का देखो यहाँ पर सेंटर दिया हुआ है. But most of the area, this center is basically what? It is an area where there is, you can see, high intensity commercial and residential land use, mixed land use मिल रहा है. So बाजार है वहाँ पर, and there is again commercial also, residential also people are found. Can you see here in this type of city, rich people are living where? This is one. One is essentially what? It is, ये वाला जो shading है, can you see? It is wealthy residential and mixed commercial use. So rich people are living where? In the center. Wealthy people are living in the center. So देखो इस तरह की cities कैसे develop हुई? अभी जो हमने देखा, this city actually developed as a रूरल मार्केट. सो सबसे पहले यहाँ पर एक रूरल मार्केट था. लोग रोज आते थे यहाँ पर अपना सामान बेचते थे. Soon they realized that we have to come daily now. And again, it is incurring cost, time. So they would realize कि it is better कि हम क्या करें? We begin to live there. So these would be the first set of migrants who would come, buy land, settle there, and they would establish their shops. ठीक है? Now what will they do? Can I say वो अपने घर बनाएंगे तो नीचे की फ्लोर्स पे अभी हमने देखा था बिल्डिंग हाइट मॉडल. So lower floors would have retail shops, wholesale shops, wholesale के sectors होंगे इस तरह की cities में जाओगे तो. And ultimately what we will be finding is that on the upper floors there would be residences. Middle floors में storage would be found. ठीक है? So this would be the typical structure which would be present. And thus the CBD which would be formed, it would be what? It would be of mixed residential. Very clearly, bazaar-based cities are those which are newly emerged cities. Or these are the cities which not have experienced growth. ठीक है? हमने क्या देखा था? हमारा growth model was based upon growth pole model rather than growth foci model. So अगर वो growth pole model पर based है तो हमने कुछ ही growth poles को identify करके वहां पर industrialization किया है. ठीक है? That means you tell me what was the thing which was leading to this outward migration? हमने क्या देखा था? Adolescent town में ऐसा क्या हुआ था कि लोग उसके बाद outward migrate करने लगे? Emergence of factories. देखा था हमने? It was emergence of the factories which was the key, playing a key role. ठीक है? So again what we find, इस तरह की cities में अभी factories emerge नहीं हुई हैं. That means center में ठीक है थोड़ा congestion है but it is still not very much polluted. So the wealthy class कौन सा है? Merchant class of the city. So they prefer to live in the center near their workplace. ठीक है? So that is basically what is taking place in this zone 1. ठीक है? उसके बाद there is zone 2. Can you see mixed residential where wealthy and poor people both are living. Simple सी बात है. This is the second set of migrants which arrived in the city. Second generation of migrants which have arrived in the city. अब जो first set of migrants, first generation migrants थे, उन्होंने CBD को occupy कर लिया. There is no space in the CBD. So when these people are coming, what will happen? They would settle around the outskirts of the city, of this CBD. And as soon as they arrived, they continued to buy land, capture land, and they build their houses. So you tell me, जो zone 2 होगा, can we say its characteristic would be that it would be very haphazardly developed, uneven size of houses, इधर उधर मिलेंगे, narrow meandering roads मिलेंगी. ठीक है? So it would be a very very unplanned haphazard type of development which would have occurred in the zone 2. ठीक है? You can understand. बाद में यही zone 2 क्या बन जाता है? The transition zone. ठीक है? So this is zone 2. Now later the people which have come, these people are the ones which are the poor class. As the city, employment in the city rose, these people were also attracted towards the city. So this is the third generation of migrants which has arrived. And this third generation of migrants, you can see that this third generation of migrants, it would be what? It is the poor class, the working people. They are settled where? On the outskirts of this city. Because they cannot get space in 1 and 2. तो उनको कहाँ पर सेटल होना पड़ेगा? आउटस्कर्ट्स पे. वेरी क्लियरली आउटस्कर्ट्स पे दे कैन अफोर्ड बिकॉज इट इज दिस सिटी इज स्मॉल. ठीक है. सो यू डोंट रिक्वायर टू मच ऑफ मनी टू कम्यूट विद इन द सिटी टुवर्ड्स द सेंटर. सो दे कैन लिव हियर एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. ठीक है. यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड ये जो सिटी है बाद में जब डेवलप होता है तो कैसे होगा? रिच पीपल विल बी माइग्रेटिंग आउट. ठीक है. मिडिल पीपल will fill the intermediate gaps. These people would become the working and the very poor people would survive here only. ठीक है. So this is how the segregation would happen. But हमने क्या देखा था? इंडिया में lower classes cities क्या वो grow कर रही थी? Did we saw that they were not growing? Because there was lack of opportunities in them. ठीक है. So majority of such cities remain what? They remain stagnant cities. ठीक है. So there is planned or semi-planned residential extensions आज के time में, because government is doing, municipalities would be established, so they would be doing some of the activities, planned activities. So in recent times, even these cities have seen what? Emergence of several planned development phases. Like for example, very commonly, some British type development would have occurred and there would be development of civil lines, for example. ठीक है. So some other planned colonies would have essentially emerged. But this is the main model which is there. अब इसमें एक और चीज देख सकते हो कि because India's ethnicity, the cultural diversity is so much, there is very frequently the situation of various minorities forming some enclaves. So there would be several cultural space which can be found. So there would be presence of what? This is referred to as a ghetto. Ghetto is what? It is a enclave which is within a city which is characterized by concentration of a particular community. That is a ghetto. ठीक है. सो यहां पर देख सकते हो, दिस इज अगेन व्हाट? टेकिंग कंसेंट्रिक जोन मॉडल, बट इट इज स्टिल अर्ली फॉर्म ऑफ कंसेंट्रिक जोन डेवलपमेंट. इट हैजंट रीच टू द स्टेज ऑफ बर्गीज मॉडल, दिस सिटीज. ठीक है. सो सच सिटीज इन इंडिया आर रेफर्ड टू एज द बाजार बेस्ड सिटीज. ठीक है. सो बाजार बेस्ड सिटीज में लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल देखो यहां पर I was talking about one city, Bhadoi. So Bhadoi is basically what? It is a similar type of bazaar-based city, small city, which has originated from a rural market. So Bhadoi is famous for carpet. ठीक है. So carpet market was there from where it has grown. So slowly what has happened? It is this city has grown. Now can you see there is the concentric zone can be understood from the fact that can you see here there is this रिंग रोड, emergence of ring road. रिंग रोड क्यों emerge होती है? रिंग रोड emerges because if a city expands like this, now अगर city का expansion हुआ इधर भी, so people living here and here, they have two routes. One is they follow this route. Can I say ये लंबा हो जाएगा? हमने देखा transportation efficiency was different. सो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन एफिशिएंसी डिमांड की इन दोनों को कनेक्ट कर दो, रूट शॉर्टर हो जाएगा. सो व्हाट विल हैपन? इफ देयर इज प्रेजेंस ऑफ अ रिंग रोड, इट इज इंडिकेटिव ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट सिटी हैज ग्रोन इन वैरायटी ऑल द डायरेक्शंस. अ मोर कंसेंट्रिक टाइप डेवलपमेंट हैज टेकन प्लेस. ठीक है. सो हम देख सकते हैं कि भदोई में देयर इज अ काइंड ऑफ कंसेंट्रिक जोन विच हैज डेवलप्ड. बट अनदर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फिनोमेना विच हैज एमर्ज्ड इज द रेलवे लाइन हियर. And this railway line is becoming a main artery around which the development has extended. So can you see, जो carpet market यहाँ पर था, now carpet market is extending. You see this Kesari carpets, for example. So this is basically the Bhadoi railway station, which is located here. So here basically what has happened, there is extension along the railway line of the carpet market, which is there, which was the main activity, the main bazaar activity which was there. ठीक है? So that is one of the examples which you can take up. ये Google का मैप है. This is the Google map से जो मैंने निकाला है. This is the थोड़ा सा डिटेल मैप है of the interior of Bhadoi. ठीक है? So that is one बाजार बेस्ड सिटीज. तो उसके बारे में लिखा हुआ है. जोन 1 क्या होता है? सेंटर में चौक होती है. सो इट इज बेसिकली द CBD. So located at the crossroads, and it's called by various names. It is a place where main commercial activity of the city dominates, which is primarily retail and wholesale activity. In this zone, some of the residential accommodation can be also found to be located above the shops. Generally, there is separate part of sale for perishable goods like vegetables, fruits, meats. हर मार्केट एक अलग मार्केट होती है उसमें. सो कपड़ा मार्केट अलग होगा, सब्जी मार्केट अलग होगा, ठीक है, ग्रेन्स मार्केट अलग होगा. सो डिफरेंट it would be divided in parts. Zone 2 is zone of transition. Some retail and some wholesale marketing have encroached, due to which it is characterized by mixed land use. Contrary to original Burgese model, here rich people are in the city is residing. Then zone 3 is zone of poor population. In this zone, lower class workers working in the central part of the city are residing. In general, the density of zone 3 is lower. ठीक है. सो अगेन जो अभी हमने बातें की वो सब इसमें लिखा हुआ है. दैट इज वन. देन देयर इज कॉलोनियल बेस्ड सिटी. अब कॉलोनियल बेस्ड सिटी में यू विल बी फाइंडिंग ऑल दीज फीचर्स वुड बी फाउंड. सो दे वर मेनली व्हाट द सिटीज विच वर प्लान्ड बाय द ब्रिटिश. स्ट्रिक्टली दे वर द पोर्ट टाउन्स. ठीक है. सो इसमें दिखाई पड़ेगा देयर इज अ पोर्ट, ओरिजिनल पोर्ट. रिसेंट टाइम्स में उसका एक्सटेंशन हो गया. सो यू कैन सी पोर्ट एक्सटेंशंस. There would be presence of some administrative headquarters, because these were the areas which were very important to them. Some open space was there behind this original port. एक fort होता था which was occupied by the Britishers. ठीक है. And this was surrounded by open space which was basically the buffer zone. In recent, or there was, as the city expanded, there was also development of CBD. Some other things, there was European town and native or black town was located. And what has happened? New wealthy middle class ultimately developed as they migrated into these areas. So again, it is a specific type of location which would be found. Such type of location has actually undergone many changes today. Examples of this can be found in case of Kolkata and Mumbai. ठीक है. बट मैं जो अभी मॉडल की बात करने जा रहा हूँ, दैट इज मोर, आई एम यूजिंग द टर्म हिस्टोरिकल मॉडल. So these historical models have cities which have medieval growth. Medieval growth, like Delhi, Lucknow, several such cities have medieval growth. अब इन cities की खास बात क्या होती है कि there were two sets of development. There was Persianization and there was Westernization, which was superimposed over them. ठीक है. देखा है हमने दोनों को. Persianization, which is medieval time, and Westernization, which was British growth which occurred. So in cities की कुछ typical aspects होती हैं. Very importantly, we'll be finding that these cities would have twin CBDs. They would also display concentric zone development. Also, there is impact of sectoral development to be seen in recent times. ठीक है. So, इन ट्विन CBDs की सबसे पहले बात करें तो एक होता है ओल्ड CBD एंड द अदर वन इज न्यू CBD. न्यू CBD जैसे दिल्ली का एग्जांपल लें तो इट इज द कनॉट प्लेस. So it is like the CBD of बर्गीज मॉडल का CBD है. ओपन स्पेस, वेल प्लान्ड, वाइड रोड्स. ठीक है. मोस्टली इट इज बेसिकली व्हाट हियर देयर इज रिटेल एंड होलसेल. इट इज ऑक्यूपाइड बाय रिटेल and wholesale, and it is also what, it is a specialized zone. That means only functional space. It is only functional space which is there. If you talk about the old one, old one is the walled town which was built in the medieval times. So if you go in Jama Masjid and all those areas, Chandni Chowk, still you will be finding वो old walls दिखाई पड़ती हैं. So the towns which were made by in the medieval period, because Mughals and the Islamic sultanates, they were outsiders. They were always afraid that they can be attacked. So when they built their administrative headquarters, they were always surrounded by walls. Delhi में देखोगे, these walls were built and उसके जाने के बहुत सारे गेट होते हैं, अजमेरी गेट, कश्मीरी गेट, दिल्ली गेट. ठीक है. So this is basically what? This is the walled town. Today it is what? It is an area of intensive commercial and residential activity. Is a mixed space. So यहाँ पर सभी कुछ होता है. यहाँ पर there is retail, wholesale as well as light manufacturing. So यहाँ पर वो vertical growth model दिखाई पड़ता है. In this there is the vertical growth model which is seen. So lower space retail and wholesale, upper spaces storage, middle spaces of storage, and the top spaces are residential spaces. ठीक है. So here this is the characteristic. It is very unplanned, very haphazard, very hazardous type of situation. Frequently सुनते होगे आग लग गई, so much destruction occurred in this area. It is a very hazardous place. Traffic jams are routine in this area. ठीक है. So you can understand, वो चांदनी चौक वाली रोड पे you cannot take your car. It is better to walk. You'll reach early rather than taking any vehicle. So I see many people taking rickshaw. उससे late पहुंचते हैं. You just walk, you'll be faster. So this is basically the old CBD. ठीक है. So now if we look into this example, you see the case of Delhi. So Delhi में can you see this Connaught Place? And here this Connaught Place, there is presence of what? Can you see this Daryaganj? This area, Daryaganj, Chandni Chowk, this is the area which is the old CBD. ठीक है. So there are two CBDs, the new CBD and the old CBD. Now here, after this, very clearly one thing which is seen, it is the development has taken a concentric zone. Can you see that? It has taken a concentric zone which is visible from the presence of two ring roads. The inner ring road and the outer ring road. Inner and the outer ring road. Further, there is low density sprawl which has taken place beyond it. ठीक है. You can see all these areas are the populated areas which can be seen. Now, very importantly, however, there is also sectoral model which is superimposed here. Some of the functionalities have distinctly grown towards particular areas. Like for example, National Highway 58, you can see Shadra, all this Silampur area, again it is light manufacturing. Same, this Patpadganj, again it is what? An area of light manufacturing. Here also you will be finding that slum property would be located. Very poor people would be located. Rich people won't be liking to live here because it is what? Dirty, polluted areas. On the other hand, you will be finding rich people have, can you see, यहाँ पर वॉग मॉडल के जैसा है, डेवलपिंग कंट्री मॉडल. ऑन वन साइड देर इज रिच पीपल कंसेंट्रेटेड, ऑन द अदर साइड नॉर्थ साइड ये, इफ यू सी पहाड़गंज, मोरी गेट, ऑल दीज एरियाज आर व्हाट, दीज आर द एरियाज विच आर मोर पुअर. ठीक है, लो क्लास रेजिडेंशियल्स आर फाउंड. So again, this is basically what? This is the division. Rich people have concentrated towards particular national highways. ठीक है? For example, you can see there is this national highway 8 which is going towards Jaipur. That is one of the areas where this concentration of more rich sections of the population has taken place. ठीक है? Other also there are some other areas, like one is going towards Faridabad. Can you see here also some industries has expanded? Like, can you see Okla industrial area? ठीक है? So this national highway 2, along this again we find that there is some expansion of the industries. On the other hand, national highway 1, 58 and 24, there is more poor population which has extended. ठीक है? So here there is very clearly a development along the concentric zone, but superimposed has been the significance of national highways in the recent times, which have added a sectoral component to the growth pattern. But still they are largely what? Still they represent a kind of concentric development which is very clearly seen in them. Okay? So this is basically what? This is the kind of the Burgess model growth which is seeing with combination of sectoral model. ठीक है? सो दिस इज द हिस्टोरिकल सिटीज. सो इसमें जोनेशन बेसिकली कैसा होगा? देयर वुड बी मोर नियर बाय प्लेसेस, लाइक ये पहाड़गंज यहाँ कनॉट प्लेस के बिल्कुल बगल में है. इट इज बेसिकली व्हाट? इट इज वर्किंग क्लास एंड स्लम एरिया. एज यू गो टुवर्ड्स करोल बाग बिकम्स व्हाट? इट बिकम्स मोर वर्किंग क्लास एंड मिडिल इनकम. ठीक है? So again, it is more mixed, यहाँ पर दिखाई पड़ेगा, but still there is a kind of zonation. Expansion is what it is in all directions. It has taken place. So kind of concentric zones have emerged. ठीक है? Because the city has a very very rich history, and people have continued to arrive. New areas, pockets have continued to develop, which would be interspersed between the rich pockets into rich and medium income groups, pockets into even poor neighborhoods. ठीक है? Like for example, if you look into number of areas, like can you see this is one area which is what? A planned region, Dwarka. It is what? It is a planned city which has been developed. It is located where? Can you see? It is located in Mangolpuri, all those areas. Again, these are what? These are outskirts, poor areas. ठीक है? सो दिस इज व्हाट? दिस इज द जोन 5. द्वारका में कौन लोग रहते हैं? मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द पीपल, द न्यूली डेवलप्ड द्वारका, इट इज द मिडिल एंड द रिच इनकम ग्रुप विच इज लिविंग. ठीक है? सो मेनी ऑफ द, बिकॉज एवरी सिटी इज यूनिक, इट विल नॉट बी एग्जैक्टली द कंसेंट्रिक जोन, बट सेवरल ऑफ द सिम्टम्स ऑफ द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ कंसेंट्रिक जोन एंड सेक्टोरल ग्रोथ इज सीन. ठीक है? सो दिस इज द केस ऑफ दिस टाइप ऑफ मॉडल. तो इसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें लिखी हुई हैं. ओल्ड सीबीडी, न्यू सीबीडी, वो सभी जो मैंने बताया वो सब लिखा हुआ है. देन द थर्ड टाइप ऑफ सिटीज आर प्लान्ड सिटीज. अब प्लान्ड सिटीज दो प्रिंसिपल्स पर प्लान्ड हैं, ग्रिड एंड मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियर. दीज आर प्लान्ड ऑन द ग्रिड एंड मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियर. सो इनका सिंपल सा फंडा क्या होता है कि So you can see this is the main road along which they are planned. This is what they are divided into sectors. It is a very clear grid pattern. And here what is happening, each of these sectors would have their nucleus. So these would be what? Commercial centers. अभी जो हमने बात की थी, अगर तुम चंडीगढ़ में जाओ, every sector center में you will be finding a presence of a commercial center. ठीक है, जहां पर ग्रोसरी शॉप्स बहुत कॉमनली मिलेंगी, others like barber shops, all those things which you require on daily basis would be planned in each of these centers. ठीक है, very clearly threshold population के हिसाब से the things are planned. Now if you take a threshold population which is bigger, so हमने एक सेक्टर को मर्ज कर दिया. Now the threshold population has become bigger. Can I say इनको स्कूल भी चाहिए होगा डेली बेसिस पर? So in any one of them a school would also be planned. ठीक है, now you do what? You combine a more bigger area. They would require even higher order services like cinema house. So एक बड़ा कॉम्प्लेक्स, एक बड़ा कॉमर्शियल सेंटर वुड बी प्लान मोर सेंट्रल सो दैट इट इज इक्विडिस्टेंट फ्रॉम ऑल दीज एरियाज. ठीक है, सो अगेन व्हाट विल हैपन, दीज आर वेरी प्लान्ड सिटीज वेयर मल्टीपल न्यूक्लियस आर प्लान्ड इन हायरार्किकल ऑर्डर according to the threshold population. Such type of development is seen in some of the planned cities like Chandigarh, Bhilai, Dispur, Gandhinagar. Several of the cities display such type of development. ठीक है, so examples include Chandigarh, Bhilai, Dispur, Gandhinagar. So these are fully planned cities. The new growth which is taking place in the bigger cities of India is also what? On this model. For example, if you look into Greater Noida, it is based on this model. Many parts of Dwarka, they are based on this model. New Bhopal, again it is based upon this same model. So extensions of the older cities, the larger cities of India is taking this similar form. So this is basically the planned city model of India. Okay? So this is essentially the urban morphology model which we see in case of India. Okay? So that is urban morphology. बहुत important topic है, because you can understand whole of your planning of the city is depending upon where? On this morphology. Okay? So later on, if some of you become also administrators, this is a very important topic which will help you in administering the city better, planning the city better, how you will be better able to plan out the activities of the city. Okay?